Good evening and welcome to Outside the Box, the show where you can interact with those vying for your votes this September. As earlier mentioned, all registered parties have been invited to be part of this show. Those that have been so far accepted have featured on the show. To our daily poll now, yesterday's question was, should value-added tax or VAT be reduced? A whopping 85% responded yes and 15% said no. Now today's question is, should external exams be brought back? Text your answer, a simple yes or no, to 3592. The poll is open to Vodafone, Digicel and Ink users. Charges apply. Joining us for first time in this segment is leader of the recently registered party, One Fiji Party, Filimoni Vosarogo. Is a former legal aid director and seasoned lawyer. Now he's decided to enter the political arena and has done so with an entirely new party. Remember, you can text in to 3599 or call our studio phone 3302-100 to ask him a question. Mr. Vosarogo, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mika.
Why politics?
Mika, like you and me, as citizens of this country, you and I are invested here. Our children are going to be invested here. And I think that if we look back in the past, 27 or 28 years ago, the events that have led us to where we are today has to come to an end. Has to come to an end. The events of the coups that started in 1987 throughout the years, and we have lived through this. The reason why we are heading into this election is because people want to see real change happen, and change for the betterment of the country and all the citizens of Fiji.
The Bainimarama government is also promising the same.
Not only just the Bainimarama government, all other parties are doing that. It will be up to the voters to see which of the parties they would want to be in government come September 17th.
Now, your focus issues are education, youth, and creating job opportunities. Why focus on these areas?
We got to look at the areas where there is a growing percentage of people who are going to go into the September 17 election. From the figures that we have gathered, between 37 to 41% of people between 18 to the age of 35 are going to be going into the poll. That is a growing population. So these young people are going to grow into the next election, into the election after that. So I wanted to ensure that we are looking after the interests of this segment or this particular group of people, and to ensure also that in a parliamentary democracy, the issues that surround their lives and how they will march forward into the future is going to be addressed.
And to that effect, you've chosen a campaign slogan, New Era.
A New Era campaign, yes.
Tell us more about that.
Well, as I said earlier in my opening address or my opening comments, there was a time in which we were thriving economically. Just prior to 1987, we were growing at a rate of 25%. The economy was growing at a rate of 25%. We've never come anywhere close to half of that since 1987 to now. The era that started on the 14th of May 1987 has to end on the 17th of September. So the New Era slogan is about a new Fiji marching forward.
And interestingly, if you look at other parties, there are more lawyers taking part in these elections. You may ask the question, why?
Well, I'm going to have to ask them individually, Mika. All of them are, much like me, have pledged to be of service to the country, or they have indicated their willingness to invest the next 4 years of their lives and years after that to parliamentary democracy and moving the country forward. And I think that's a very healthy stand to make.
What is your party's view on the secular state issue?
Let me address you, Mika, in a very short concept of what we're after. You'll hear more about this when we announce our manifesto on Friday. One Fiji Party will not be concerning itself or be concerned with the wrangles of whether Fiji should be a Christian state or a secular state. What One Fiji will be asking for and would be propagating in this election is the recognition, you hearing me now, Mika, is the recognition of the sovereignty of God over the islands of Fiji. That's different from this platform that we are dealing with, whether Fiji should be declared a secular state. It is now in the Constitution of 2013, or whether it should return to the 1997 position.
Would you also allow your party to be pulled into this whole argument on indigenous issues, particularly land? Oh,
we have to be addressing that as well. And we will be addressing that when we launch manifesto on our blueprint, we call it, on Friday, this Friday.
Yes. You call it a blueprint. We've if you recollect, so many years back, blueprint. The SDL government had a blueprint, but those have sort of failed. And you coming up with another blueprint?
Well, the blueprint and the manifesto is just the same thing. It's outlining the plan forward for each of the parties. Whatever you call it, whether it's the manifesto or the blueprint, it basically say what the party wants to do should it come into government.
There's a call online, Mr. Vosarogo. David from Suva. David, welcome to the show.
Yes, I just want to ask a question to Mr. Vosarogo. Yeah, how do you ensure that the coup culture ends?
It's the question from David, calling from Suva.
Thank you, David. I think at the moment there is a growing sense of disenfranchisement, right? The divide that we thought we could bridge in some quarters appears to be widening. What we have to do is collectively as a nation, that's going to be our responsibility. We're going to be talking to various segments of our society on how we can address this issue and to make sure that the coups will become a thing of the past post 17 September. So it will take a collective effort. It'll take an effort from the government, the people of Fiji, and different societies coming together in a collectively new way to get us forward.
Now we'll leave Mr. Vosarogo. Stay with us. Joining us next is Salote Radrordo from SODELPA. Welcome back. Join our discussion live tonight by texting your questions to 3599 or call our studio line 330-100. And remember, you can have your say in our daily poll. The question is still, should external exams be brought back? Simply text yes or no to 3592, Vodafone, Digicel, and Ink users. Now we welcome Salote Radrordo from SODELPA. She has an extensive career in the public service and has now descended into politics. Mr. Radrordo, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mika.
Now, you were a former director for women.
That's right.
And you retired in 2012. Now, SODELPA is critical and accuses the Bainimarama administration for not doing enough for women in Fiji. Now, you were part of the administration until 2012. You had the chance to improve things or change things, and coming now to criticize the policies of the Bainimarama government on women's issues.
Thank you, Mika. The policies of the Bainimarama government on women is not much different from any other government, but the challenge remains with the women themselves, or the women ourselves. For example, in developing leadership capacity for women to be members of boards, We find it challenging when we approached potential women when I was still at work. They held reservations to coming in and joining the board, and reasons expressed that that will affect their traveling overseas to visit their children who are attending overseas institutions.
But then, you know, you've worked in the sector for quite some time, and you're still involved with women as chairman of the Law Development Committee
Yes.
in this area. Now, how much more do you think you can do for women in the country? How better do you think you can deliver for them?
There's a lot more that we can do for the women of Fiji, and SODELPA takes that strong view that we would like to develop women in our leadership capacity by ensuring that 30% of women are in boards and committees, and with an elected government in place, I believe women will be more willing to come forward now and serve, and also to introduce more women into the political field by looking at a quota system with parties, so that to encourage women to participate in politics more in the future.
Yes. A text question from one of our viewers. Should the current government's financial report be made public before the election?
Yes. SODELPA is of the strong view, and it's in our manifesto, that it is the government's responsibility to table the audit report before the election, so that we will all know how the government has spent the money, the taxpayers' money, and also how much loan has the government acquired, and where has the loan come from, and what was the loan condition. It is important for us to know that before we go to the elections.
Another question from one of our viewers. Can you give a proposal on the PM and minister's salary if your party wins and goes into parliament and forms the next government?
Minister's salary has always been part of the whole civil service salary, and it's all reflected in the payroll. It is not something that it's hidden from the civil service. It is only this regime that has taken out the minister's pay from the payroll and has excluded them. And right now we don't know how much they're being paid, and we are told that they are back into the payroll.
Now, if your party wins this election and forms government, how much do you think your Prime Minister should be getting?
The Prime Minister should be getting around the vicinity of not more than $200,000.
Okay, thank you. There's a caller line. Welcome, caller from Radrordo. Your question for our guest tonight?
My question is, what is your party's land policy?
Your party's land policies.
The land policy is that we are going to be looking at the land use decree and look at how it has affected the land ownership on the indigenous people, and we will take away the land use decree.
How is it? How has the land bank affected the indigenous people, as far as land ownership is concerned?
The land bank has affected indigenous ownership in the terms that the landowners do not have a say in terms of how their land is going to be used. That has been given to a committee which is headed by the Prime Minister. That is according to the land use.
Does the party have an alternative?
The alternative is to look at the previous Native Land Trust Act and align ourselves and see what gaps that could be addressed, so that at the end of the day, it's a win-win situation for both the landowners and the government for developmental purposes.
Yeah. How do you regard Lassine Ngarse?
Lassine Ngarse has, in his time as the Prime Minister under the SDL government, has excluded...
Do you look up to him as a mentor?
Yes.
Now, he's been recently criticized of fanning flames of religious and racial hatred. What do you think of that?
I think that has been taken out of context. He's been wrongly quoted. And I believe he stands that, like the SODELPA party, we uphold the principle and values of Christianity, but at the same time, Mika, respecting the other religions and other faiths that we live here in Fiji.
Yeah. Thank you so much. After the break, in our final segment, we speak to Dr. Jiko Luveni from the Fiji First Party. Welcome back. Remember, you can join the discussion live by texting in your questions to 3599 or call our studio line 330-100. We now cross live to our journalist, Filimoni Vosarogo, who is in Matanising Road in Makoi, here in Suva, at a rally organized by Fiji First. Filimoni, can you tell us what's happening on your end?
Thank you, Mika. We are here in Matanising Street, coming from the Makoi Methodist Community Church Hall, where the Fiji First Party is holding its political campaign tonight, with about more than 100 people attending it. There is no sign of Dr. Mahendra Reddy, the economist, but we have Mr. Alipate Nayorosui, the former CEO of the Housing Authority, and Mr. Chone Usumate, the Minister for Labour. Amongst the issues stressed here, Mika, tonight, these are equal citizenry, honoring men and women who have selflessly served the state, the right to education, the right to housing, and the right to royalties relative to the role of the newly established land bank institution. But the irony of this society, Mika, is that in Makoi, Itauke and Fijians, they live side by side. So other issues such as VAT, the rising cost of living, economic growth, and of course secular state have also come into play. But the minister, being the minister himself, Mr. Chone Usumate, has diplomatically answered this query to the people here by reminding them that Rome was not built in a day. In other words, Mika, telling them that if they will take Fiji First Party into Parliament to run as government for the next 5 years, their query, their questions can come into effect. It is obvious, Mika, the race is on. It will be interesting to see how the tables will turn come that day, September 17, when all Fijians will go to the poll. That's all from Makoi, Mika.
Interesting campaigning there, Rambo, and that was Filimoni Vosarogo live from Makoi. We recently caught up with the Fiji First Party President, Dr. Jiko Luveni. She may be the first current Minister of Women, but she's also vying for your votes next month. Let's hear from her now. Now, you are standing as a candidate for Fiji First in these elections. What are some of the things that you're looking at in this campaign?
In campaigning, I'm not looking at anything new. I'm merely reminding or describing to the voters all the development programs and projects that this government has achieved in the past 8 years. And if I am to speak for myself from my ministry, we have done reforms in our social welfare program, so that we can reach out to many more people than we did before, and also to ensure that we are targeting social welfare assistance to the people really deserving of that. And also a very exciting one as well is this pension scheme that allows every 70-year-old in this country to be receiving pension. So that is an exciting one. With the women, I feel that we have brought up the empowerment of women programs to a level that is highest ever. This is really based on the comments coming from the women. Even today we have this expo. This is the first of its kind where women from the rural areas would come together and socialize, network, and just to be with each other and learn from each other. So and also with the income generating activities that we have done, in the last 4 years, we've financed almost 300 projects in this country, and this has been made possible because this government puts priority in the development of women, and has increased our budget fourfold since we came in. So because the budget has been increased, we're able to network better with the women. We've linking up with more than 1,300 women's groups and in villages and also in settlements. So there is a lot that we have achieved, and there's much more yet to be done. We would like to improve our coverage so that the whole of Fiji is covered, particularly with a very popular project as well, is the one that the elimination of violence against women and children.
So for you personally, you are confident with all those that have been achieved that you will get a seat in the next parliament?
I am very confident, and I'm not saying this just for myself. It's just the comments made by women, even who are here today, and even before this one. I have been told you don't have to campaign. You've done much. So.
Jiko, there may be women out there in other parties who may be better than you. You'll be up against them. And what makes it different, from you and them?
Yeah, I guess we have very good lineup of women, very highly qualified women, and I'm sure women that will do very, very well in Parliament. But I think my advantage is I've served them in the past 7 years, and there has been evidence of the results of the services that I have given them. That they can compare with the governments, the previous governments and the previous ministers for women in particular. So with that benchmark and the achievements that I've made, and I've had very positive comments on that, I have that advantage over them. And also with my visits to throughout the country, meeting person-to-person contact with the women. So there is a very strong link between me and the women of Fiji. So I have that advantage.
Jiko, now your government has been accused of media gagging, and also of media gagging, and also it's been accused also, and people seem to have this common thinking and view that the campaign has been one-sided, and the information going to the people have been one-sided. The other parties have not been given the opportunity in the media, or the media given the liberty to take their side, of things.
I disagree with that, because if you will see the media, even the daily newspapers, both the Fiji Times and the Fiji Sun, they are covering, everyone, and I'm sure that is their goal, to have a balanced coverage of all the parties.
So you believe there's been balanced coverage?
Yes, except I guess for one of the dailies that we see has been one-sided, has been ignoring us.
Is this Fiji Sun, you say?
No, Fiji Times. Fiji Sun has been very much for us. But I think Fiji Times, well, as far as I'm concerned, they're reporting very well, but not as much as the other papers, the Fiji Sun.
TV stations?
TV stations have been very good. I think they've been very well reported, covering all the parties. And I'm sure they've been trained to do this. And I don't think any party should complain. We've been given a very good coverage and very balanced, in my opinion.
Dr. Jiko, thank you for talking to Outside the Box.
Thank you.
And that ends our show tonight. We'll have the results of tonight's poll. Remember, you can still text in your answers. The lines will be open until 6 p.m. tomorrow. Again, the question is, should external exams be brought back? Text in the answer, yes or no, to 3592. Join me again tomorrow as we continue to profile candidates for this year's general elections. Until then, good evening.